Well, tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing on this tour.
Huh? What'd you say?
What are you going to be doing on this tour?
I'm going to be doing Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, Living in America, Sex Machine, get up off of that thing. I feel good.
He sat down on the bed.
Officially, the only person with him when he died was his personal manager.
And he sighed very, very quietly and very gently. Then he closed his eyes and he was dead.
I want to get now to this exclusive CNN investigation that raises questions about the death of James Brown, the Godfather of Soul.
The tragic truth about the murder of James Brown is finally coming to light. Officially, James Brown died of heart failure caused by pneumonia, but whispers of foul play quickly spread.
But tonight, James Brown was sentenced to 6 years in prison, plus 5 years probation and $6,000 fine. Earlier, a jury found him guilty of...
Despite his frail health, marked by high blood pressure, heart problems, and repeated hospital stays, many wondered if something darker was behind his sudden death on Christmas Day, 2006.
Well, tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing on this tour.
Huh? What'd you say?
What are you going to be doing on this tour?
I'm going to be doing Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, Living in America, Sex Machine, get up off of that thing. I feel good.
Brown's personal struggles, legal battles over his estate, and tensions within his family only added fuel to the fire. Was the Godfather of Soul's passing just natural, or did hidden forces play a part? Let's find out. James Brown was known as the hardest working man in show business. For over 50 years, he gave everything he had to his music. He danced, sang, and performed with more energy than almost anyone. No matter where he went, people loved his shows. He traveled the world and always tried to give fans an unforgettable experience. His voice, his moves, and his strong stage presence made him a music legend. But behind all the lights, music, and applause, James Brown was a man who was hurting. While he smiled on stage, he was in pain behind the scenes. The truth is, all that performing took a big toll on his body. In his later years, his health began to fall apart. One of the biggest health problems James had was high blood pressure. High blood pressure is also called hypertension. It means the heart has to work harder to pump blood, and that can be dangerous. If it's not treated properly, it can lead to heart attacks or strokes. James also had heart problems for many years. These two issues together made his condition very serious. His body was tired, and his heart was struggling. In 2006, the year he died, he was in and out of the hospital many times. His health got worse near the end of that year. In December, James was found unconscious at home. He was rushed to a hospital in Atlanta. Sadly, just 2 days later, on Christmas Day, he passed away. His cause of death was listed as heart failure.
He influenced a generation of performers, and this morning the nation mourns James Brown. He died this morning in Atlanta. Brown won 3 Grammys, including a Lifetime Achievement Award. James Brown was 73 years old.
I want to get now to this exclusive CNN investigation that raises questions about the death of James Brown, the Godfather of Soul.
But James's problems weren't only with his heart. He also had arthritis in his knees and legs. Arthritis makes your joints hurt and swell. For most people, arthritis is painful enough, but for James, it was even worse. He was known for dancing on stage for hours. That kind of movement is very hard when your joints hurt. But James never wanted to stop. He didn't care how bad the pain was. He kept on performing because he believed it was his duty. He once said, "This is what I'm all about." Even when doctors told him to rest, he kept going. He didn't want people to think he was getting old or weak. He wanted to be strong for his fans, no matter how bad he felt inside. Another thing that may have affected James's health was his use of Viagra. Most people think of Viagra as a drug for men with problems in the bedroom. But James said he took it for energy. He believed it helped him feel strong and ready to perform. Some of the people who worked with him said they also took small amounts of it before shows to stay energized. But medical experts say Viagra is not an energy drug. In fact, it can make the heart beat faster and harder. This can be dangerous for people who already have heart problems, like James did. Some people believe James took Viagra not just for energy, but also to keep up his image. He wanted to be seen as powerful, both on and off stage. James also had cancer. In 2004, he found out he had prostate cancer.
Mr. Brown was shaken up when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer.
This kind of cancer is common in older men. It affects a small gland near the bladder. When James learned he had cancer, he didn't want to lose his hair or look weak. He also didn't want his sex drive to change, so he chose a type of treatment called brachial therapy. This treatment uses tiny radioactive beads placed inside the body. These beads help fight cancer without many side effects. James liked this method because it didn't change his appearance. Doctors later said the cancer was under control. But even though the cancer was being treated, James still felt weaker than before. James also had deep emotional issues. One of them was his fear of being alone. He didn't like being by himself, not even for a short time. When his wife had to travel, she made sure someone was always there to keep James company. She knew he felt scared and lonely when no one was around. This fear caused problems in his marriage. James needed constant care and attention, and it put a lot of pressure on his personal relationships. But his wife said she understood him. She said she just wanted him to feel safe and cared for, even when she couldn't be there. Initial suspicion of foul play. After James Brown died at 73 years old, some people close to him started asking questions. His death certificate said he died from a heart attack and fluid in his lungs.
Officially, the cause of death was a heart attack and fluid in the lungs.
But many people thought something more had happened. His doctor, Marvin Crawford, signed the death certificate. But in 2017, he told CNN that he was not sure what really caused James's death. He said James got sick too quickly. The doctor said he never expected James to die that night. That made him wonder if something went wrong in the hospital room. He even questioned if a toxic substance might have been involved.
He sat down on the bed.
Officially, the only person with him when he died was his personal manager.
And he sighed very, very quietly and very gently. Then he closed his eyes and he was dead.
CNN did a deep investigation into James's death. They talked to many people who knew him. 13 people told CNN that they wanted a full autopsy or a police investigation. These people included James's son Daryl, his last wife, and his manager. One woman, Jacques Hollander, told CNN she believed James had been murdered. She even said she had proof. Hollander was a singer who had worked with James in the past.
I've just kept it quiet. There was a need to know. If someone didn't ask me, I didn't tell. James Brown was murdered.
She told CNN in 2017 that James and his third wife, Audrienne, were both murdered. She had been trying for years to get someone to listen to her. In 2020, Hollander finally got a chance to talk to the district attorney in Fulton County, Georgia. She brought a green plastic bin with her. She said the bin was full of evidence. She handed over printed text messages, a list of witnesses, and told her story in detail. The district attorney listened and took notes. He said his office would look into the claims and decide if there should be a full investigation. After the meeting, Hollander gave the bin to the district attorney's office. They gave her a receipt and said they would go through everything she brought. Hollander said that she had tried to meet with the district attorney before, but no one returned her calls. She felt that people were ignoring her. But after CNN reported on her story, the district attorney agreed to meet. During the meeting, 2 other prosecutors also listened. They took her seriously. Hollander hoped this would finally lead to answers. She said outside the courthouse that the district attorney was very kind. She believed he really wanted to find out the truth. The story doesn't stop with James. Hollander also said that Audrienne Brown, James's third wife, had died under strange circumstances.
This story has never been told before in the mainstream press. You won't find it in any of Brown's biographies.
Nobody wanted to hear the truth.
Adrian died in 1996 in California. She was recovering from plastic surgery when she passed away. The police in Beverly Hills did not investigate her death, but Hollander believes Adrian was also murdered. CNN looked into Adrian's death too. They interviewed over 140 people and went through thousands of pages of documents. Many of these documents came from the police and the courts. The evidence they found made some people question if either James or Adrian really died from natural causes. After CNN released its three-part report, the story made headlines around the world. News outlets in Germany, Brazil, and other countries reported on it. Magazines like Rolling Stone and The Guardian also talked about it. People wanted to know what would happen next.
Why won't these questions of his death go away?
Well, here's what I learned in my reporting. There are at least 13 people who knew James Brown who think there should be an autopsy, a criminal investigation, or both.
Would the police open a new investigation? Would the truth finally come out? But after the reports, there was silence. No one in power seemed willing to take action. The police in Atlanta said they wouldn't investigate James's death. A whole year passed before the district attorney finally met with Hollander. Even now, the full truth about James Brown's death is not known. Some people still believe he died from health problems. Others think there's more to the story.
The doctor told me Brown was almost ready to go home from the hospital. He'd been treated, he had a concert tour scheduled, he was going to get in the studio with Aretha Franklin. And then suddenly he took a drastic turn for the worse and died. And people still want to know why.
James gave the world his music, his energy, and his heart. But behind the fame was a man who suffered deeply. He didn't just fight illness, he also fought loneliness, fear, and pressure. He wanted to stay strong for the people who loved him. He didn't want to show weakness, even when his body was falling apart. In the end, James Brown's story is not just about music. It's about pain, love, mystery, and the search for truth.
The woman whose phone call first set me off on this investigation, Jackie Hollander, came into possession of a black duffel bag. She says it contains evidence from Brown's last days. We had an item from this bag sent off for forensic testing. It came back positive for marijuana, cocaine, and a prescription drug. We don't yet know what that proves, but it's one more data point investigators may want to examine.
Wow.
Back in 2005, Jacques did something else serious. She filed a lawsuit against James. She said that in 1988, he raped her and pointed a shotgun at her. Hollander worked with Brown at the time. She was helping him with public relations. In return, Brown said he would help her in her songwriting career. Hollander remembered meeting with Brown and his lawyer in his office in Augusta, Georgia, in April 1988. After the meeting, Brown told her to ride with him to look at a car he had customized. She agreed to go, not knowing what would happen next. As she walked to the car, Hollander noticed Brown was holding a shotgun. She thought maybe he had it for protection, so she didn't say anything and got into the car. But soon, she realized something was wrong. Brown was driving dangerously and would not slow down, even when she asked. She said he looked like he was in a strange mental state. He was sweating, foaming at the mouth, and talking in a confusing way. He then drove her to a quiet, empty place in South Carolina. Once there, Hollander said he pointed the gun at her and attacked her. She said he beat her and hurt her mentally for hours. Then, he drove her back to the office and warned her to never speak about what happened. He told her that if she did, he would have her killed. In 2000, Hollander was diagnosed with Graves' disease. This is a health problem where the body attacks its own thyroid. It can cause serious health issues. But it was not until 2003 that a doctor told her the disease might have started because of the trauma she suffered in 1988. This was very important for her case. Hollander said that because she only found out the cause in 2003, the time to file a lawsuit should start from then, not from 1988. But Brown's legal team did not agree. They said the case was too old. In Illinois, people must file personal injury lawsuits within 2 years of the injury. Since the attack happened in 1988 and Hollander filed in 2005, they said it was too late. Hollander said the discovery rule should apply. This rule says that if someone learns about their injury or its cause much later, the time to sue should start from the day they learned the truth. She also said she was too scared to come forward earlier because Brown had threatened her life. The court listened to both sides but ended up siding with James. The judge said the lawsuit was too late. The court believed that Hollander should have acted sooner. This case showed how hard it can be for victims of abuse to get justice if too much time has passed. Sometimes fear and confusion can keep people silent for years, but the law often looks at the dates more than the feelings. At the time of his death, James was having serious problems with his family, especially about his will. Some family members were not happy with what the will said. His widow, Tommy Ray Heine, was also fighting in court over who had the right to his estate. People close to Brown were being accused of stealing money or making secret deals. This made people wonder if someone had something to do with his death to get his money or property.
There are certain things that he wouldn't do, and one thing he wouldn't do is ever cut his family out of things.
Even though James had a long career and was known all over the world, reports said he didn't have much money left when he died. The Daily Mail wrote that he was almost broke in 2006. Tommy Ray Heine, who was his wife, said Brown worked hard, but the money he got from shows and music wasn't as much as he expected. Sometimes older performers don't earn much anymore, even if they were very famous before. Brown kept working, but the paychecks were small compared to what they used to be.
Was I surprised when the reading of the will? No. Surprised by what?
At the time of his death, Heine was in a rehab center in California. When she came back to their home in Georgia, she found that the house they shared was locked up. She wasn't allowed inside. Later, she found out that James Brown had signed the house over to his lawyer. This might have been done to protect the house from being taken away if he couldn't pay his debts. Heine also said that James had been cheated by many people who worked with him over the years. His income from music and concerts had dropped a lot in the last years of his life. The night he died, Brown seemed to know something was wrong. He told a close friend, "Remember this, I love you very much." These kinds of words are often said when someone feels the end is near. Around midnight, Brown asked one person to leave the room so he could be alone with Bobbitt. He said, "I'm not going to make it." Bobbitt tried to comfort him, thinking he just meant he didn't feel well. But Brown may have known that he was about to die.
He sat down on the bed.
Officially, the only person with him when he died was his personal manager.
And he sighed very, very quietly and very gently. Then he closed his eyes and he was dead.
Doctors had given him antibiotics and fluids, which helped him for a little while. Sometimes people feel better right before they die. This can be confusing because it gives hope. Around 1:15 a.m., Brown and Bobbitt were trying to get some rest. But just a few minutes later, at 1:23 a.m., Brown said again that his chest was burning. He sat up in bed, then fell back. Bobbitt said Brown took 3 small breaths, then stopped breathing. Doctors tried to save him for over 20 minutes, but nothing worked. At 1:45 a.m., James Brown was declared dead. When people heard the news, they were shocked. Friends and fans couldn't believe it. One man said he dropped to his knees when he heard. Another friend was sure Brown didn't really die. He thought maybe Brown ran away from the hospital because he didn't like them. But it was true. James was gone. His body was taken to the Apollo Theater in Harlem, New York, where his music career began. About 125,000 people came to say goodbye to him.
But Mr. Brown, all through the 35 years I knew you, you used to tell me if you died first, you wanted to go out with dignity.
In Augusta, Georgia, about 50,000 more people came. It was clear that James Brown meant a lot to many people. But something strange happened. His body was rushed to be displayed before any autopsy could be done. Skipping this step raised more questions. The chaos didn't stop there. Years after his death, James still wasn't properly buried. His body stayed in his daughter's front yard in a special container above ground. Many people thought this was disrespectful. They said he would have wanted to be buried in the ground, like most people. The family could not agree on where to bury him. They were also still fighting in court over his money and property. His children were arguing about who should get what, and some even questioned if the will was real. It was a big mess, and people kept saying there was more to the story. Some people still believe James was murdered. They say the events around his death were too strange. Why weren't the hospital security cameras working that night? Why wasn't there a full autopsy? There were too many questions with no answers. Some people think Brown had powerful enemies. Maybe someone wanted his money. Maybe someone didn't like how powerful he had become. Others even think the government watched him because of who he talked to. He was famous and had a lot of influence. Maybe some people didn't like that. Even though the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI, looked into Brown's death, they didn't find any proof of murder. They said there was no foul play, and his death was natural. But the court fights over his estate went on for years, and the strange facts around his death kept people wondering what really happened. Long before his death, James Brown had already lived a very wild life. In 1963, during a show at Club 15, in Macon, Georgia, Brown got into a fight with his music rival, Joe Tex. Witnesses said Brown brought 2 guns and caused a fight that left several people hurt. Even though it was serious, Brown didn't go to jail. People say he paid off the witnesses, so they stayed quiet. Brown also had legal problems in the 1980s. In 1988, he was arrested and sent to prison for 6 years.
But tonight, James Brown was sentenced to 6 years in prison, plus 5 years probation and a $6,000 fine. Earlier, a jury found him guilty of...
He had driven through Georgia and South Carolina, trying to run away from the police. The chase was wild. Brown even kept driving after the police shot out his tires. It started when Brown stormed into a business with a shotgun, yelling about people using his bathroom without permission. At the time, people already knew he was using drugs like PCP, which can cause very strange behavior.
About what you're going to be doing on this tour.
What'd you say?
What are you going to be doing on this tour?
I'm going to be doing Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, Living in America. Sex machine, get up off of that thing. I feel good.
Police finally caught him after he drove for 6 miles on just the rims of his car. This wild scene was even shown in the 2014 movie Get On Up, which told the story of Brown's life. Even before that, Brown had been in jail when he was only 15 years old for stealing cars. While in jail, he sang in the choir and later formed a band when he got out. He worked hard and climbed his way to the top, becoming a legend in soul and R&B music. Big stars like Michael Jackson.
James Brown is my greatest inspiration. Ever since I was a small child, no more than like 6 years old.
And Mick Jagger.
Did you borrow any of his dance moves? Because you're up here a little bit, and he's down on the feet.
Borrow them. I used to unashamedly borrow. I kind of dropped them. I did some other ones, but I used to do.
Looked up to him, but even with all his talent, Brown kept having problems. In 1985, the government took his big property because he didn't pay his taxes. He got out of prison early in 1991, but trouble followed him again. In 1998, he was arrested for shooting a gun at home and leading police on another chase. This time, instead of prison, he had to go to drug rehab. James Brown had a life full of high points and low points. He changed music forever and became a huge star. But his personal life was often full of trouble. His final years were marked by money problems, family fights, and people possibly taking advantage of him. When he died, it wasn't just the end of a music legend. It was the beginning of a long and messy mystery. To this day, people are still asking the same questions. What really happened to James Brown? Was it just pneumonia and heart failure? Or was there something more? Why did the people closest to him fight so hard over his estate? Why was he never properly buried? And most of all, why is a man who gave so much to the world still surrounded by so much confusion and sadness? These questions may never be answered, but what we do know is that James Brown's music lives on. Even though his life was full of trouble, his talent and energy will never be forgotten. He gave his all on stage, and his fans will always remember the way he made them feel.